Hello everyone, Teeka's Dragon here, and today we've got a video going over the Crimson Vow vampires. So it's been a great set of spoilers and I'm super excited, so let's jump right in and get assessing these vampires. So first up we've got Stefan, Mora, Progenitor. So this guy we've been given as the new vampire commander. So he looks to be a beefy vampire tribal deck with the blood token under theme. So as part of the 99 does it work as well. So starting with the basics, it's a 4 mana 3/2 with flying and it creates blood tokens. So this is 1 to 4 on average per combat depending on your play group per turn. So I personally play one-on-one mainly, so it doesn't give me as much value as other players might get running it. So when he attacks, he then has the second ability to sacrifice 2 blood tokens, and if so, you can put a vampire card from your hand onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking. It does get indestructible until end of turn. So I definitely feel he works better as a commander because you can build around it with bigger creatures, but for me personally, I don't have a high mana costing vampires of payoff, so I don't think he's as strong in the 99 as a commander. So for me, I'd say he's 2.5 out of 5, but I can imagine as a commander he will be a solid 4 out of 5. So now we have the Welcoming Vampire. So this is the vampire version of Mentor of the Meek, which has its pros and cons in comparison. So firstly, it's a 3 mana 2/3 flyer, and whenever one or more other creatures enter the battlefield under your control, draw a card. So you don't have to pay for this one, however the ability triggers only once each turn, so it's just a one-off, but it's still card drawing white. I'm going to give this guy a 2 out of 5. Next up is the Blood Vial Purveyor, a 4 mana 5/6 with flying and trample. However, this card gives your opponents blood tokens every time they cast a spell, just to have the potential to give itself +1/+0 multiple times when it attacks. I don't like it. It gives your opponents too much advantage, and they can even use the blood tokens before you can benefit from it. It's a 0 out of 5 for me. Now we've got the Falcon Wrath Forebear, so a 3 mana 3/1 flyer that can't block. However, when it does deal combat damage to a player, you can create blood tokens. So then it also has the option of recursion without any terrible conditions such as entering tapped or needing to have had only 1 card in your hand, etc. So just bear in mind, when you bring it back, you can't block with it, but you can do it in the previous end step to your turn, so then you can attack with it next turn. 3.5 out of 5. So now we've got our first flip card. So this is Henrikh Domnathe, the other side Henrikh Infernal Seer. So a 4 mana 1/3 with flying. It doesn't do anything till combat, so with this card, personally the best case scenario, you're going to play it in main phase 1. At combat, either make each player sacrifice a creature, you get to sacrifice the token that came along with it, or option B, if you have the mana, transform it and then pay for other creatures with flying and death touch or lifelink to get +1/+0. However, that's 7 mana plus, depending on how much you want to activate that, and not all vampires have those abilities. This can have a 4 out of 5 for its versatility though. Now we've got our Planeswalker, we've got the new Soren. This time Soren, he's the Mirthless. It's a 4 mana Planeswalker that ends as on 4, and it does pass the Dublin Season test. For anyone that doesn't know, it just means it can be automated the turn it's played if Dublin Season is out. But anyway, it makes a good Planeswalker if it passes that test, so it's a good start. So the plus is card draw, Bob on a Planeswalker. And then we've got the -2, which is protection for itself, a 2/3 black vampire with flying and lifelink. And then finally is -7 is damage and life gain. Personally, this is my first 5 out of 5, one of the only 2 in this entire set. I do love him, and I just feel like Soren never seems to disappoint. Now for another flip card, we've got Valderran Bloodcaster and Bloodbat Summoner. So on the front side, we've got a 2 mana 2/1 with flying. It's cheap, I like that. It has the triggered ability of whenever itself or another non-token creature you control dies, you create a blood token. And if I haven't mentioned yet, I do like these blood tokens, especially in a deck without card draw blue. But anyway, so this creates value for any stack outlet, which does appear on quite a few vampires. And then if you have 5 or more blood tokens, you get to transform her. Then we have a 3/3 flyer, and this has the triggered ability of each combat you get to turn a blood token into a 2/2 black bat with flying and haste. Personally, it's a 4 out of 5. I'm not going to complain, no complaints for the card, but I also am not winning the game with it. So now we've got our red mythic, the lovely Cemetery Gatekeeper. So this guy is a 2-mana 2/1 with first strike. Good start. Then going into his abilities, firstly, you get to exile a card from a graveyard. It's great to have Graveyard Hate on a card. Can deal with plenty of infinite combos and can be 2/4. Then he reads, whenever a player plays a land or casts a spell, if it shares a card type with the exiled card, it deals 2 damage to that player. So I would avoid exiling a creature. Vampire Tribal usually has a lot of creatures. It could hurt yourself. However, it's flexible for whatever you're playing against. So if you're playing against Storm, exile an instant. Against artifacts, enchantments, you get the gist. Personally, 4.5 out of 5. I would have preferred it to not damage myself. Next is Dominating Vampire, so a 3-mana 3/3 creature with control built in. So having this with Vampire Tribal means you may be able to steal quite a big creature from someone. However, it's also not guaranteed, so you know, if you've only got this guy out, you could just be stealing one. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. It's not a bad card, but it's also only on the maybe list for my deck. And then we've got the Beast Olivia's Attendance. That's a 6-mana 6/6. Now, personally, this is already too high of a mana cost, and it doesn't have win the game written on it. But it does have menace, and it does create blood tokens when it does damage. But with this, you either need to have extra mana to use its activated ability of dealing 1 damage, or you need to wait an entire turn for it to attack and not have it be blocked. So if you need a mana sink, this could work well. You can do so and draw through your deck, but otherwise I wouldn't use it. Only a 2 out of 6 for me. Now we've got Angie. Angie's back, and she is a 4-mana 4/5. So whenever itself or another vampire enters the battlefield, you get to create a blood token. This does only trigger once per turn. Then you can pay 2 and sack a creature or a blood token, and then each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. I'm disappointed, to be honest, guys. Firstly, only once per turn on a rare, not great, and then having to pay mana and having to sacrifice just to create life loss. That's a lot of asks for such a small ability. 2 out of 5. I am excited for this one though, guys. We've got Edgar. He's backed as a charmed groom, and we also have his coffin on the back. So he's got married, and now he's become a vampire lord. So his front side, a 4-mana 4/4, and it gives other vampires +1/+1. And then when he dies, you can return him transformed. And then on this side, we have his coffin, and this is an artifact which creates a 1/1 white and black vampire with lifelink each upkeep, and then adds a bloodline counter onto itself. And then when there are 3 or more bloodline counters, you can remove them and transform him back. I love this concept. He never really dies, fitting well with the story there. So he's really difficult to get rid of. Opponents either need to exile him to stop him returning, or deal with the artifact. Now, artifact removal and exile cards are harder to come by than just generic creature removal. So he's getting a 5 out of 5 for me. Again, Edgar doesn't disappoint. I'm liking the Markov family today. Next, we've got an uncommon that I do want to give a shout out to, so that's Markov Purifier. So a 3-mana 2/3 with lifelink, and it does read if you've gained life this turn, which it can do if it attacks or blocks, you may pay 2. If you do, draw a card. If you're building just an Orzhov vampire deck, which there are some great commanders for, this is a good guy to have to add card drawing, which can be difficult in the Orzhov combination. Next, we've got a slightly sad occasion. We've got Audrey. He did die, but he is now back as a vampire, and he does follow the theme of blood tokens. So he gets to create X blood tokens, where X is the number of keywords on the field. So most vampires follow the same kind of keywords, a flying, lifelink, you know, and then you've got a bit of death touch and menace here and there. So I feel like he fits less into a vampire tribal deck. I do like him, but he's not getting added. He can be a 3 out of 5. And now we've got the bride herself, Olivia. She is expensive at 6 mana for a 3/4. She does have flying and haste, and then when she attacks, she can bring back another creature from the graveyard tapped and attacking. So she can be quite a bomb the turn you play her, depending on what you already have in your grave. So That creature will then stay on the battlefield until you no longer control a legendary creature, and then you exile it. I personally don't run very high CMC creatures that bringing back in this fashion would do such damage. So overall, for me, 3 out of 5, but if she is put in the right deck, you know, the beefy commander deck that we were talking about earlier, you know, she could be a solid 4.5 out of 5. And finally, we have a vampire 5-colour land. This land is great with EDH. We're not bothered about losing our life for coloured mana. We already do this with the Pain lands, Horizon lands, other 5-colour lands. So it's great. And then it also has the ability to create blood tokens for potentially 0 mana. You just get to tap. And I think that's really great, to be honest. There's just nothing more else to say other than I'm impressed. I'm going to slam it straight into my deck, and I advise you guys to do the same. So guys, that was my overview on the vampires from Crimson Vow. I'm excited to be updating my Edgar deck with some of these new goodies, and I'm also looking forward to creating a new version of the vampire commander Stefan, or even maybe Olivia, mix it up a little. Also guys, I do want you to make sure you know I will be brewing it live on November the 29th with Into the 99. Super excited for that, so make sure you tune in. I will leave the details in the description, so not only will I see you there, but I'll also see you in my next video. Take care.